So yesterday we learned that the first thing we know about serving Hashem is that there are no prerequisites. You're born and you're meant to start running when you're born. In other words, you don't have to wait until you've done A, B, and C and then serve Hashem. Just like every day, Moeda Ani is a first step of serving Hashem. You just accept upon yourself the yoke of Hashem before anything else. So too, in life, you don't have to wait until you've done various things and then you're a servant of Hashem. Rather, Hashem wants us to serve Him. Now, that doesn't mean that there aren't different levels of serving Hashem, but the service of Hashem is something that's asked of us all the time. Hashem is always looking at us, as it says in Tanya, in chapter 41, it's one of the 12 Torah passages that the Rebbe asks every child to memorize. Hashem stands upon each person, and the whole world is full of His glory. And He looks at every Jew. And not just does He look at everyone, but He examines their kidneys and heart, meaning He examines their inner thoughts. To see if a Jew is serving Hashem properly. So our service of Hashem is something that doesn't require any preparations. We don't have to wait until we reach the level to serve Hashem. We're always meant to serve Hashem. And yesterday we added another point to this idea of serving Hashem, and that is that serving Hashem doesn't just mean that you show up and do the things that Hashem says to do and you don't do what Hashem said not to do, but serving Hashem also means to serve Hashem with your heart. That Hashem married our godly soul to our animal soul for the purpose of some change that Hashem expects us to do to our animal soul. And that is the function of what davening is about. Davening is about the neshama communicating with our natural persona. Our persona should hear what the neshama thinks and feels through the teachings of Chassidus. It should understand and feel the greatness of Hashem. That's what should happen in davening. Parenthetically, the Rebbe Rashab, it's more than parenthetically, it's really an axiom, but among many, many things that Kunshas HaTfilah, that the Rebbe Rashab wrote for all Chassidim that they should learn in order to know how to serve Hashem in davening, among the principles that Rebbe Rashab shares there is that there are many people, he says, who are otherwise serving Hashem in prayer, but they have various ra choili, he describes it. They have a bad illness, and they have many character flaws, some despicable character flaws, despite this fact they serve Hashem in davening. And he says the reason for this is that despite that they get really inspired when they daven, and they get really interested in coming closer to Hashem and to distance from themselves all negative character traits, but because they don't get specific in their davening, they don't say what this actually is going to mean for me personally, and how exactly I'm going to change, the experience leaves no effect on them at all. And he says, in order to be able to fix a character flaw, you need to know, first of all, what it is. You need to think about it. It sounds very similar. It's in chapter 13 in Kunshas HaTfilah. It sounds very similar to what the Rambam writes. The Rambam says, when you pray to Hashem, you have to have your heart in heaven. You have to have your eyes facing downwards. The experience is meant to, with your eyes facing downwards, look at the negative character flaws and say, I have an issue. My issue is that I'm an angry person. My issue is that I am a jealous person. Whatever the issue is, davening is a time to work on a specific character flaw and walk through it, meaning they actually think in detail. This is what happened to me. Right now I'm inspired. Right now this is great. But I know that when I go to this and this place, these and these thoughts come into my head. This and this feeling happens to me when this happens. When this guy steps on my toes, when I got this text message from the bank account, when the husband says this and the wife says that. So this is a kind of reaction that I have. So the Torah says that you need to think of the details and davening of what exactly you want to fix and what exactly you want to change. It's not enough during davening just be inspired and say, I want to be closer to Hashem. There has to be a communication from your davening to that character flaw, and to walk through it in your davening, in your service of Hashem. You think over a certain concept of Chassidus that counters that character flaw, and you and you go over it in detail, and you sing a nigga, and you think about it, and you work on not just one davening, but many times in davening. The Rebbe writes all this. You have to work on that specific thing they're trying to fix. But anyway, so the meaning of serving Hashem in davening is that your neshama is communicating with your animal soul and trying to change it. What if you,
Rabbi?
What?
Are you able to give us some page numbers for different things?
Which one?
Are we just supposed to figure out which davening connects to things like being annoyed by people that are inconsiderate? That's a really solid example.
In chapter 25 in Gersa Kedesh, the Alter Rebbe talks about how to deal with anger and anxiety, and how to frame that there are no people that do anything to you, period. And it's a concept, it's a truth, but for it to be something that you actually feel in a natural way requires thinking it over before davening, and then in the various places of davening that you're into, you channel, you focus, and you say to yourself, you go to that place in yourself that has a reaction. You talk to it. You say, well, this is what I was thinking yesterday when this happened. But this is the emes. The emes is that no person can do anything to me. The emes is that the Abish is the one who's doing this. You walk through it. You go through that, and you realize there's no human being. But it requires before davening. You meditate in chapter 25 in Gersa Kedesh. Specifically, that chapter, the Rebbe said that it's effective when you're going through something, even before it becomes a feeling. You already know it in your brain. There's a switch which says, that's not good. Then there is your heart which says, ah. So when something's still in your brain at the that's not okay, before it gets to the heart, some people have it like 0 to 7 seconds, like a Ferrari, like 0 to 60 in 0.7 seconds. They go from the brain to the heart immediately. Some people have a little bit of more space, some people have less. So, but the Rebbe says when there is that beginning of judgment in your brain, before you get from past judgment to a feeling in your heart, you should already have that thought process in your mind that you're able to use as a tool to realize there are no people, there are no things. All there is divine providence. What's happening is by Hashem's hand. That's something but in order for that to work during the day, you have to have that in your davening in your heart. You reached there, came somewhere that actually think that way. And then during the day, it comes up and someone steps on your toes and you're, nothing besides Hashem. It's Hashem's hand. This is good.
What about shimmy, Rabbi?
Yeah.
And David Melech.
Right.
Yeah. What about that?
So King David said about shimmy that God told him to curse me. Exactly. Very good. That's about justice there in Tanya.
What does he say later though on his deathbed? He says, "Go kill him."
That's not because of his personal failure. That's because that was the will of Hashem, and there is some things you got to do, and you got to do them. But the question is, do you have a mind like water, and you're just doing what Hashem wants you to do, like King David, or are you the guy that in the moment is like the Tesla, which is 0 to 60 in how long? Depends which model. Okay.
1.9.
So
1.9.
1.90 to 60. Are you Meshuggah? Why don't you get a Porsche? Why don't you want Teslas for all your life? Anyways, so
Porsche is slower. I've never heard of a 0.7 second 0 to 60, but what do I know?
I apologize. Okay, I thought there was faster cars than that. Anyways, so 1.9. Fine. So what happens if you don't do that? What happens if you don't go to this whole process of trying to change your animal soul? So we learned yesterday that not only is there a deficiency in your animal soul, there's a deficiency in Hashem's connection to Hashem. If you're not doing what Hashem is asking you to do, so your Hashem's connection to Hashem is lacking. It's not only about the purpose of Neshama's mission is to impact your animal soul. That's true. But besides that, there's something between Neshama and Hashem that's supposed to happen during davening. It's supposed to be a very intimate moment, and Neshama is supposed to go back to its source, connect to Hashem during davening. If the Neshama is not showing up and doing what it's supposed to do, the Neshama is missing its connection to Hashem. So when it says in the Torah, serve Hashem, it means to, number one, it means to just show up, but it also means to serve Hashem in davening and try to make a difference in the way you think and the way you feel, and to address the stuff that shouldn't be there. Okay, let's continue now on page Yud Ches. Are we on? Page Yud Ches. Another angle about why it's not sufficient just to serve Hashem with reverence, and you also have to serve Hashem with love, is because the Torah uses the word Aveda, and the word Aveda means it's similar to what the Torah uses regarding a tannery to tan hides. Aveda means to tan the hide of the animal soul, to change the animal soul. Just like when you tan an animal hide, there are many things you have to do, and it requires great effort in order to make that animal hide fitting, that you should be able to write on it portions of Torah. So too, our service to Hashem has to be done in the way of avodah, with great effort, to spare no effort. This is for the sake of the Eibishter. Why are you sparing effort? Don't spare any effort. It requires effort, but put yourself in there. I think that this point, the focus of this last point is that we're not talking just about, you're supposed to love Hashem. We're talking about something that requires great effort. Just because it's hard doesn't mean that you're doing the wrong thing. On the contrary, that's what it's about. It's about making an effort. And like Mechamer Chai's example of something that really bothers him, it's going to require effort to change that. And this tells us that serving Hashem just with a sense of reverence is not the goal. To have a sense of reverence, there's no prerequisite. It doesn't. If Hashem only wanted us to serve Him out of reverence, there wouldn't always be a need for Aveda. Why would there always be a need for Aveda? There are some people that have a natural reverence for Hashem. So if the whole point was to serve Hashem just to show up and do what Hashem says without and with reverence, then Aveda, this great strain and effort, wouldn't be always necessary. Sometimes, not always. Some people have this natural fear of Hashem. But in order to make this change in our persona, that requires a lot of effort, and that requires, in order to reach a love for Hashem, a relationship with Hashem. The Rebbe Rashab used this expression. He said, love is geschmacker, fear is healthier. Love is more enjoyable, fear is healthier. So although the Rebbe is pointing out over here that we have to make an effort to actually generate positive feelings to Hashem and how it's worth expending all effort to get there, the first step of serving Hashem, as we learned yesterday, is that you accept upon yourself Hashem, Hashem as your king, and that's the foundation of the service of Hashem. That's gesunter, that's healthy. You have to have that. But geschmacker, more enjoyable, is serving Hashem out of love. And as we're learning here, it's not just more geschmack for you, it's more geschmack for Hashem. Hashem only married in Hashem with your animal soul because He wants that. He wants you. He doesn't just want your hands and feet. He wants you to be a servant of Hashem. From all that we've said, it's understood that when the Torah says to serve Hashem, it means both to serve Hashem out of fear and to serve Hashem out of love, to have both. Hashem wants ourselves, our whole persona, not just that we should show up and say the words of davening, but that we ourselves should be in this, and to have ourselves present fully in what we're doing. There has to be it has to be close to us, not just in our mouth, not just in our body, but in our heart. This is what we want to do. I'm not going to go over the parable now, but I'm sure you remember the parable I gave about the guy who showed up to a soldier who shows up to roll call without his clothing, and the Tsar wanted to kill him, because how dare you not come naked to the roll call of the soldiers? And the guy tells the Tsar, "Who guards you, me or my clothing?" And the Tsar let him off. In a similar way, the Eibusher doesn't just want our clothing, doesn't just want us to show up with the words of davening and with the actions of checks and dollars and pennies that stuck, and with pages of Torah that we've said. Hashem wants us to be connected to what we're doing. And that's where Aveda comes in. Aveda requires us to go through something that we have to work on in detail over and over again, and actually walk through that thing that separates us from being where we're supposed to be, and generate positive feelings of our neshama should be our own perspective. We shouldn't say that the soul's perspective is fey. It's somewhere out there. Okay. Ois hey. To explain exactly what Hashem means, how we're supposed to do this. So yes, it applies to fear, it applies to love, but how does this work? The pasuk continues and says, you shall not have a miscarriage, you shall not be barren. In akara, the meaning of akara means that you don't have any children. The koya aviv misa avira, the same as being this. Sha'avi bechinas ben, next page. V'yire bechinas bas. Ukshemishakela yishal yilos avira. Al she'en lam kiyum. Al zeh ba'at siva lesim shkel akarash as ben shichaliyas ve'efan shatil zeh losamidis. V'amiyis yuv kiyum. Sh'osti aveda shel avisham kechem kidaboy. Being barren means, Torah says don't be barren. That means don't be a guy who thinks about the greatness of Hashem and doesn't give birth to positive feelings of love and reverence for Hashem. Don't be somebody who doesn't produce an offspring of feelings. That's what Torah says, don't be barren. Don't have miscarriages means that your love and reverence for Hashem should continue, should stay with you. It shouldn't be that you love and have reverence for Hashem and it doesn't have an impact in your life. Something should shift and should be part of your persona, and you should stay with it. I saw yesterday a fantastic teaching of the Kotzker Rebbe. The Kotzker Rebbe says, Hashem says, open up for me like the opening of a needle. And Hashem says, and I will respond to you, and I will open up like the opening of a great hall, like the hall of Beis Hamikdash, which had no doors. That's what it says in the Talmud. Hashem says, all I want you to do is open up for me like the opening of a needle. The Kotzker Rebbe said, why does the Torah say like the opening of a needle? There are many small things. What's the emphasis of the word needle? He said that when you get pricked with a needle, what happens? Rabbi Beryl Baumgarten and my grandfather refolded my unique relationship. I saw a postcard. He sent my grandfather. What do you think they spoke about? Whatever. He sent him a postcard. And he said there was a certain guy who was very challenged in his sense of humility. And when he came to a certain yeshiva, he said about himself, he said it was said about him that his davening is in a way that nothing can disturb his davening. Nothing. So he starts from Esrei and someone pricks him in his backside with a needle. And sure enough, there's no reaction. So they try it again. They prick him once again. And he does react and he responds, but not the first time. When I daven, it's full concentration. I didn't respond the first time. Anyways, when you get pricked with a needle, you jump. So the Kotzker Rebbe said that when Hashem says to us that he wants us to open up like the opening of a needle, he means he wants us to open up in a way that we jump and make a real step. And what happens when we do that, Hashem opens up for us like the opening of the Beis Hamikdash, which has no doors. That means Hashem keeps that open for us. That's always a well-tread path that we could always continue to go on. That's what the Kotzker Rebbe said. The Chassidus actually says something very similar. The Maimer we learned a few years ago, Tafshin Chaf Purim, the Rebbe says the needle is a geometric point, and the meaning of open up the eye of a needle means that you put yourself completely aside and you say to the Eibusher that I'm yours. You put your heart and your mind aside and you say I want to be there with you. Anyway, so the Torah says don't be barren. The Torah says don't have miscarriages. It means that Hashem is telling us we have to produce feelings of love and reverence for our Hashem. Our sons and daughters are love and fear. Those are born from our meditations. And these meditations shouldn't just be shouldn't stop at feelings, but it should reach our actions and should be something that changes our persona, that we feel about Hashem a certain way. Okay, to explain this concept, we're on page Yutes, new paragraph. Whenever you want to ask him, you can jump in. In this concept of being barren, there are two levels, the two kinds of barrenness. One reason a person could be barren is because they don't even have a base matrin. They don't even have a womb to be able to have a child. They're missing physically. They're just unable to have a child because there is no space, there is no part in their body that can produce a child. What this means in our service of Hashem, Beis Vlad in ourselves refers to an intellectual excitement. Just like I mentioned before about anger, that there's a part of your head which says, There's also in that same space of your brain, there is a part that says, this is good. Even before it gets to your heart, which is like, this is exciting. There's a part of your brain which says, this is something special. Intellectual excitement. That is the part of your brain, part of yourself, that can give birth to feelings. Without it getting past that stage of, this is special, this is exciting, without the part, it's never going to reach feelings. So an akara, someone who's barren, means that they're missing this intellectual excitement. There are two maladies discussed in Chassidus. One is called Timtum Halev, where your heart is stuffed and plugged and you can't generate feelings of love. And then there is Timtum HaMoich, your brain is stuffed up. You're not even able to become excited about anything. Your brain is just like so frigid and so nonchalant about the most exciting things that it dismisses incredible things in a nonchalant way. So I think we all must have some of this if we use smartphones, because there's all these things to be sent to us all day long, and you have to move them away. This is nothing. Otherwise, you have to quit your day job. So there is a malady called being barren, where you don't have the ability to reach feelings. Why don't you have the ability to reach feelings? Because you're so dismissive of the things in your life that should be near and dear to you, but they're not near and dear, and you dismiss them because your brain is plugged up and it's unable to get excited about anything. And that makes it impossible for you to reach feelings of love and reverence for Hashem, because you're so dismissive, and there is no that space in your brain. Similar to what psychologists say about reading, there's some people that have a hard time processing what they read, because when you read and you don't understand what you're reading, so there's a part of your brain that says, "Hey, dude, you don't know what you're saying. Stop a second. What did you just read?" But if you're one of us who davens every day, then that part of your brain that volume in your brain, gets shut off a little bit, and you get used to reading things. I understand what you're reading. And similar, if you're in your shiva and you're constantly have open book all day long, that volume, that part of your brain that says you don't know what you're reading, it's really like it goes on mute. So you don't know that you're not even understanding and thinking about what you're davening because it's all on mute. In a similar way, our brain is meant to bring to the fore things which are exciting to us and we should pay attention to. And sometimes, you could be driving and something is you got to pay attention. This guy crossing the street, and your brain's like, he's far away. When you get really close and something's dangerous happening, there's another part of you, another part of your body, just like a physiological reaction. Gotta stop. So, in a similar way, in our service of Hashem, there's a chapter in Tanya, and a chapter in Tanya which is meant for you to hear, and has something to do with you and something personal, there has to be a part of you that can hear it. Otherwise, there's no chance of there ever being any excitement. A friend of mine asked me to translate a letter that I Rebbe for him this week. This guy had been very wealthy and he'd come in hard times. And the guy knows Hebrew very well. But it was fortunate for him that although he had no idea what the Rebbe said in the letter. Because if he did, chances are he wouldn't have had a chance to bring about it. But because he asked me to translate it, and I was so shocked by the divine providence, how the Rebbe addresses directly his issue that we had a whole Farbrengen. In this letter, the Rebbe quotes, this letter, the Rebbe quoting a talk of the previous Rebbe. I don't know if I shared this with you. The Friedrich Rebbe says that a person should not be, he says that there's a wheel of fortune. And when a person's sitting on top of the wheel, he should not be laughing and happy because the wheel turns. The person sitting on the bottom of the wheel, he shouldn't be crying because the wheel turns. Rather, Friedrich Rebbe says we should be so happy with our fact that we are wealthy with an eternal wealth, or that we're chassidim. That's the Friedrich Rebbe writes. And the Rebbe writes in this letter, you have to bring this into your basar halev hagashmi, into the physicality of your physical heart. You should actually feel this way. You should actually feel that you're okay, that the wheel turns, and it's going to be all right, and we're rich with the wealth of being of the eternal wealth. So so there's a concept there, but there's bringing that concept from that part of your brain. There's 1 second. This is something special. The Rebbe just answered you. There's an answer to your letter, and there's going further with that. Not just there's an answer, but what does it really mean? And then you try to process that, and you learn Sha'ar B'Tachon, and you bring it into your heart. You actually feel that way. So in order to get anywhere, there has to be a stop. The part of your brain says, "What is going on? This is amazing." And without that "this is amazing" thing, if you don't have that "this is amazing" button that gets triggered by chapter and Tanya, there's no way your neshama's marriage with your body will ever produce offspring of reverence and love for Hashem. So that's the first kind of malady, that not only is your heart plugged, but your brain has some plumbing issues and it does not get excited about anything. So that's the Torah says, you need to get rid of that. Now, how do you get rid of that? I'm going to learn more on Sunday, but just one point that Rebbe mentions, I want to say, the reason why a person does not get excited about things which are very exciting is because he is a full cup. Meaning he's full of his own desires, not just the Yetzer Hara's desires, but he's full of all kinds of desires. And because he's so full of all kinds of desires, so therefore the advertisement of the chapter in Tanya that there's something out there that's more that should excite you, you're full of all other things that you want. And since you're so full of all these things, so therefore what you've just learned in Tanya doesn't talk to you. There's things that you like to do that are service of Hashem, things you don't like to do, and you can't hear anything from the chapter of Tanya because you're so full of the things that you want. Anyways, Richard will get more into that on Sunday. Any questions, comments, or criticism? Okay. Have a great Shabbos, Dr. Bressman, Shabbos Yonatan, Shabbos Marcus.
Shabbat Shalom. Chodesh Tov.
Shabbos Beryl.
Thank you very much.
Is that a question?
No, it's a thank you. It's gratitude.
Okay, thank you very much. Good to see you.